My name is Stacie Townsend. I'm the founder of Pickler, where we help you learn to play better pickleball. I'm also your host for Pickler the Podcast, along with my co host, John, the People's Champ Davison. And John, we had our first episode of 2022 last time. We have a lot to talk about, and I think it's going to be a trend all year long. And I think just we should dive right in. Last week or last episode, we talked about the evolution of the game in the last 10 years. And I think we should also talk about the evolution around the game, which includes the viewing for the fans. And just to tee this up, if you watched last episode, you saw an old broadcast again from 10 years ago, which was likely a Facebook live stream or a GoPro attached to a fence. There was a nice court and fans were lined in their nice folding chairs. And as you pointed out, the referee had a fishing shirt on.
Mm.
And you fast forward to last weekend, which was the first tournament or pro tournament of the year with the APP Mesa Open. You saw something that looked very different. You had a professional broadcast team, production crew, two angles on every shot. You had huge grandstands with fans. Referees looked very professional. So much different viewing as a fan. What do you think that means for the game?
Well, I can tell you two things. One, myself and I'm sure thousands of others are very spoiled because now we're just used to having all these nice cameras, nice angles, replays, commentators, and now you go back and you look at a match with, or even today when somebody films on their phone, it's almost like, gosh, I can't even watch this. I don't know the score, blah blah blah. So we're definitely spoiled, and the production is just getting better and better, which is good. Um, but it's also crazy to see that this is just one tournament on a pro pickleball tour, and the video we watched last time that was shot on a phone was the national championship match from 12 years ago, right? So it's just crazy the evolution of the broadcast side of the game has come.
I know that's a good point. I didn't think about it. It was the national championships, and this was one of maybe 52 or 50 plus tournaments that we're going to see this year. I think what we've also been seeing is the competing tournament or competing tours have maybe some different philosophies out there. So the APP, as you said, puts their stream out there, very professional, puts it on their YouTube on their channel. But you're also seeing some other tours put pickleball on some major sports networks like CBS Sports, Fox Sports. So talking about the growth of the game, uh, more broadcasts like that, more eyeballs, better for the sport.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the first one to do that was the US Open a couple years ago. They showed some of the gold medal matches on CBS, I believe. Um, but I think both tours now are going to have some matches being broadcasted on some major networks and like ESPN3. It's just good because it's getting different eyes to the sport.
No,
Whereas, yeah, if it's just
you're
Facebook and YouTube, it's only the people that already know about it.
no,
So,
that's a great point. And I think pickleball's in this weird space. I'm no broadcast expert, but there's kind of a philosophy, maybe when to take the broadcast to the next step. Because initially, with these broadcasting going to these sports networks, they don't just come and say, "Oh, I want to put pickleball on TV." You have to basically buy airtime, which is what the U.S. Open did a
mhm,
few years ago, like you said. And you can kind of tell because when what happens is they go to these broadcast companies, they buy the airtime, and then they turn around and sell the ad space to sponsors. So when the same sponsors at the tournament are usually the ones showing up in the commercials, you can tell that uh, they probably bought that airtime. So it's
mhm.
interesting. When do you take pickleball to that next step? Meaning that capital investment of buying the airtime really pays off. Because not like Wimbledon, where ESPN is paying millions of dollars to put Wimbledon on their network. So it'll be interesting to see how those contracts or relationships with the big broadcast networks evolve over this year and years to come.
Yeah, I mean, it'll definitely take some advertising, some big advertising budgets from the tours to really promote some of those matches are going to be re-aired or aired live on those major broadcasts. So that way there's more viewers than just your typical pickleball people. watching, and then they can have good ratings, and then maybe the network picks it up, right, and then gets more ads uh, from non pickleball companies.
Yeah, and you're starting to see it, right? I think PPA probably has maybe the biggest sponsors at the moment in terms of guaranteed rate. They had the Hyundai. Carvana is coming in with their new ownership. So it's kind of a chicken and egg. You want to get the bigger broadcasts so you can pull the bigger sponsors, but you need the bigger sponsors to go on the bigger broadcasts.
Hmm.
But I think it's getting there, right? Like pickleball is getting in the conversation, and it's exciting to see.
Well, I mean, it's crazy. Just, I mean, the tour started right before COVID
Hmm.
happened, and or started. We're still in it. uh, and it's crazy because before then there wasn't really a pro tour, and now you have like just 2.5, 3 years later. I mean, this is pretty legit, and I mean that's for any tour um, going on right now. Just both tours are getting a lot of momentum.
There was actually a pro tour like several years ago, and TOC was probably at the forefront of it, Tournament of Champions in Brigham City,
Hmm.
Utah, and it like failed. So it's crazy that this concept was there. It didn't work, right? Maybe it was premature for where the sport of pickleball was. And then, like you said, we have two tours that are both being sustained at the moment. USA Pickleball just announced their championship series as well, and there's other companies out there trying to do something similar, but APP and PPA are definitely at the forefront. But they're all out there, so it's crazy just how a few years can really change the game.
Oh yeah, definitely. Um, was that USA Pickleball that started their pro tour back then, or was it a different entity? Because I don't remember that.
I think it was the same gentleman that started TOC and really brought pickleball to Brigham City, Utah.
Mm.
I remember seeing a YouTube video uh, on it, but I always thought that was interesting that the concept existed. It just didn't work, where it didn't work out.
I mean, it takes a lot of capital and a lot of people that put in a lot of time and effort to really get that going. And
Right,
also, probably back then they didn't have the infrastructure they do now. Um, you didn't have. I mean, especially where I'm at in Jacksonville, Florida. When I started 4.5 years ago playing, we didn't have any permanent courts. It was temporary courts on, you know, pretty crappy tennis net or tennis court, and that was all we had.
right.
So, if you're trying to sort of pro tour, you need pro venues. So I'm sure that was another factor that didn't help, right?
Right.
And
No,
then
for
social
sure.
media social media exploded too during that time. So that generated a lot of momentum for pickleball as well.
Right. Well, if pickleball, I mean, it's growing at over 20% a year. The numbers for 2021 are projected to be well over 5 million. So again, that's another 20 plus percent jump. So if you just take it back just a few years, you're cutting the numbers in half. So we've essentially doubled the
Hmm.
pickleball population in just a few years. So just more opportunity for everyone involved.
Yeah, definitely. It's just gonna keep blowing up. So we'll see where it is at the end of the year. Because I have no predictions. I don't know where it's gonna be, what channel it's gonna be on, who's gonna be the number one player. I mean, it'll probably be Ben. But who knows? Maybe some players will start to take the top step away more often now as it gets more competitive. I don't even know where it's gonna be in a
Yeah.
year.
Well, hopefully all the channels will have pickleball. But to bring it back to the broadcast,
Mhm.
what do you like to see or what don't you like to see when you're watching pickleball these days?
So I definitely am, like I said, biased or not biased, spoiled because I just can't watch a match. I can barely watch a match now that doesn't have like commentating on it. Even just I'm not listening, just background noise, right? And it's just not just all you hear is pickleballs hitting back and forth,
Right.
right? So and then you can hear the score. Um, I mean, that's pretty much it. I like how there's a lot of replays now, you know, um, and the tours are getting better at showing that the replay. within the allotted time that they have before the next serve goes. So
Mhm.
I think the productions are getting a lot better. Um, it is tough to see the same commercials over and over again.
Mhm.
But I mean, it's just like we talked about, um, you
Yeah,
gotta
I think I know those Jigsaw Health commercials by heart now.
oh, I know. And then every paddle company, right? It's the same commercials. But so either they gotta start making more or Tor just gotta convince these companies that they'll get a good ROI. Because the one thing about pickleball is people are loyal in pickleball. It kind of reminds me of NASCAR, because I come from the racing world.
Mhm.
My stepdad did not want to shop at Lowe's because he didn't like the driver that was sponsored by Lowe's, Jimmy Johnson. When to the other, Home Depot sponsored Tony Stewart,
Mhm.
right? So he would only go to Home Depot because he liked Tony Stewart and he hated Jimmy Johnson, right? Because it's like that cult following. And
Mhm.
so it's just interesting because in pickleball you see the same thing, right? Like with Jigsaw Health came in and now everybody buys Jigsaw products. Even I've bought Jigsaw products over, the past year and a half or so, 2 years. So it's like it's crazy because yeah, it's a niche community, but when there's a sponsor that gets involved, people really cling to it. At least in my opinion.
Well, I think that's important to sell sponsors too, right? I
Mhm.
remember so when I was on the board for USA Pickleball a few years ago, we did a huge, massive survey of all pickleball players, not just USA Pickleball members, but all pickleball players, and there was pretty good response. And one question in there was, "Are you more likely to buy from someone that sponsors USA Pickleball or pickleball generally, or
Mhm.
something along those lines?" And the answer was yes, I'm more likely, which is great because then these pickleball companies can turn around and say, "Look, if you sponsor pickleball community, just like you said, is very loyal. They'll support you, and you could reach now well over 5 million people." So it's a great way to really continue to develop the sport.
Yeah, definitely. And the tours just have to convince the companies of that. And I mean, I think Jigsaw's a great example. I mean, Jigsaw's probably
Hmm.
making a bunch of money now that everybody in pickleball buys it. So we'll see. I think we'll have a lot more names coming in um, with sponsorship dollars.
I think
Whether
you're already
that's
starting to see it.
yeah.
So the PPA announced a few new ones. USA Pickleball, I think, announced two new sponsors this week, being
Mhm.
Consumer Cellular and Day One, which is a CBD drink or something, I think along those lines,
Oh,
which is interesting. Uh, so you're already starting to see more and more sponsors and more interest, which will only continue, I'm sure.
yeah, and I think you also find some local sponsors as well, like so say,
Hmm.
Mazda of Boca Raton, right? I think you're gonna start, seeing some local sponsors starting to pick up first before you see probably a lot of the big name sponsors, unless the tours can ink deals with like an whole season long.
Hmm. No, that's a good point. Well, pickleball, so it's growing nationally, but it's also so hyper local, which we've talked about in previous episodes. So there is a lot of opportunity for local companies and businesses to
Hmm.
really get involved. But going to your point about the slow mo and replays, I really love it. I think one challenge they've had is that there's just like a fraction of time between points, so it's really hard to play replays all the time. But I think it
Well,
really adds to the match for sure.
I do have one criticism though. I like how an MLP did this as well as the PPA. I don't know if the APP has done it yet with the challenge,
Hmm.
right? Like I think the challenge is pretty cool, but I don't think that the camera equipment they're using is good enough to really make a distinct call, right? So you're, it's like the refs that are reviewing it after the fact on the replay, the frame rates just aren't quick enough, or the camera's just not good enough to really make an informed call. A lot of them are like very subjective.
I know, I agree. I think it's almost more difficult than watching it live. It looks like little shooting stars
Yeah,
hitting the line with the tail. I'm like, you know, you have no idea whether that was in or out.
I do like though how it costs a timeout, right? So you can't just like start challenging everything.
Mhm.
Um, because I think that happened in, I don't know if it was NLP or not, but somebody had challenged and they were out of timeouts. So then they couldn't challenge. And I think the ball was like in and it was pulled out. So it would have been a good challenge, but they couldn't do it, you know? So I,
Yeah, I remember that. I think the other team, it was Team Chimeras versus Team BLQK, and Team BLQK actually called the challenge on themselves because they had a challenge left, which was it was kind of cool. But you're right; they
oh, I
couldn't.
do
They were
remember
very
that.
upset.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's cool that they're starting to do that stuff, but I would like to see the camera equipment get a little bit better if they're going to start really implementing it. I know that they're just test piloting it, but I'd like to see the equipment get a little bit better before it really, because now there's big money in the game. So, you know, the refs have to be able to make informed decisions on those challenges because it's costing a team the timeout and just the
And
quality
the
there.
games at this level now, the pros are getting so good, and the margins between a win and a loss sometimes are just razor thin.
Hmm.
So 1 point, or maybe there wasn't even a point awarded, but one rally could really change an outcome. And momentum is so important to the game; it can really affect things.
Oh yeah, 100%. Um, it could definitely, if that ball is in, you challenge, you still lose because the camera can't catch it's not in the right frame, right? Now you're like
Hmm.
even more pissed off. You lost the point, you lost the timeout, you lost the challenge, and you knew it was in. So now it's really going to mentally
Yeah.
affect you. So yeah, and you're right. I mean, there's just no margin for error really in these tough matches because everybody's just so good.
Yeah, and speaking of margin for error, I think with these better, bigger broadcasts, I think there's more
Mhm.
pressure on all these tours. So I was I was working at home and my mom was around on Thursday and she was waiting till noon, I think was the APP matches were supposed to start, and they didn't start at noon. So I had to hear her complain that the pickleball wasn't on. It was supposed to be on. I guess there was a power outage in Mesa, so they couldn't start the
Yep.
live stream or the broadcast. So the fans are loyal and they expect you to be on time, and they're waiting for you.
Oh, I know. I remember I was trying to watch it too, and I was like, "What is going on?"
I know.
But
The other
that's a
thing,
problem too.
yeah, there's going to be more pressure to get it right.
Yep, exactly.
The other thing that I thought was interesting from this past weekend was APP adopted Championship Sunday, which the PPA originally started, and it seems to be a success and here to stay. The APP put a little twist on it in allowing double elimination, so you had both the bronze and the gold medal, and including a double dip if the team coming out of the bronze medal beat the winners bracket team, which is different than the PPA, which doesn't allow this double elimination once you get to the gold medal. What'd you make of that format on Sunday?
I like that they're trying it. Uh, I, as a fan or somebody watching right at home, it makes it nice because you can just see all the best games that are going to happen on the Sunday, right? So you can see bronze match, another bronze match, another so and then a gold, and it's a good end to the weekend because you get to see all the medal matches at once, and I like it. My only thing is I'm not good enough yet to be in one of those situations where I'm playing in one of those. For me, I know that I need my first game is terrible. The number one rule in the USA pickleball handbook is if John Davison loses the first game, it doesn't count. So I would likely lose, you know, the goal if I had to play on that Sunday, I would likely lose the first match because and then I'm out, right? So like it's done. So I think for some people, I mean, these are all good athletes. They can turn it on a lot quicker than I can, especially the people that are going that Sunday more often than not. But I think I would want to know what some of the players who have played in it, like Zane or Irina, who
Hmm.
or like Ben and Tyson, and find out what those guys like. I think I don't remember what the Waters said if they liked it or not. I've heard Tyson say that he likes the championship Sunday. Um, but I do like that there's a bronze and a gold and that you can fight back because I think that's just something that pickleball has unique to itself. Whereas in
Hmm.
tennis, you lose and you're out, like you can't win for gold. So I see both. Um, but I think we'll see, how it keeps going, especially when you have somebody like Zane who's in every single bronze or gold match. It's a lot of matches throughout the day. So
Hmm.
that's the price of being good, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think it's a lot of pickleball if you're playing the bronze and the gold medal, and you have to play the double dip game. On the other hand, if you're comparing to the PPA, they play the best 3 out of 5, so maybe it's a wash in terms of number of games.
Hmm.
But in either scenario, if you're in multiple matches, men's, women's, mixed, singles, all of those, it's a lot, a long day. I personally like the double elimination, like you said, because otherwise, I think it makes the draw super important. And
Hmm.
pickleball is so much about momentum. And I feel like the double dip and coming all the way back around after maybe you lose the first match happens so frequently that it makes it exciting. And I liked it because I felt like it was more pickleball on Sunday, which I don't know if that was really true
Yeah.
or not, but it felt like a long day of pickleball, which was nice.
Yeah. I do like your point about how when you come through the consolation bracket and still get to gold, it kind of removes the draw aspect, right? Because you're right, when it's a single elimination, and let's say you have the three best, say you have like three teams that are like the top three seeds, the one and the two or the one and the three might play each other a lot earlier, right? Depending on how it's drawn up. But really, like those are the best matches, and they're not happening at them for money, right? They're not happening for the medals. So um, I like the double elimination myself again because I typically lose the first match, and then I try to make a run to the back draw, um, which is something Stacie, you and I love to do.
Yeah.
So, and it's for the same in men's and singles. Singles, I usually don't make it very far though. But yeah, I like being able to come back through. But again, I'd like to see what the players that are playing in it really think. So I'd want to talk to some of those players, and I think the tours need to talk to those players as well. But for the fans, I think it's great.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. The players should have some sort of input. I think from the tour's perspective, they're probably thinking about time of broadcast. I know that's
Hmm.
one reason why the PPA really pushed for that 3 out of 5 and just one match because it's more predictable. Like I know one game's going to be about 20 minutes. So if we
Right.
make it all the way to 5, I know what it's going to be. So if you have the bronze, maybe the gold double dip, it's maybe a little more unpredictable.
Hmm.
But maybe in time, more data, they'll be able to manage that.
Yeah, I mean, I think pickleball is already difficult to predict because you can have, even a best of five game series, you could have
Mhm.
somebody wins in three, and
True.
one of those games could be a bad game for someone that goes quick, right? And then sometimes you have like a 2 hour match. So it's pretty impossible to predict, I think.
Yeah, I'm curious how they're gonna handle that because I think that's one issue that I've heard they need to manage from a broadcast and bringing on sponsors, but time will tell. I'm sure they'll get more creative in how they handle it. I know there's murmurs of studies being done to even change the scoring,
Hmm.
so, maybe to a rally scoring system.
Well,
Personally sitting here, I don't know if I'm a huge fan of that because I think it'll change the game, but things are being tested or studied to see if there's improvements, which is nice, right? Because pickleball is kind of in its infancy still.
Yeah, and I think Casey Pat was on Ben and Rob's show one time, and they were talking about that and
Hmm.
how volleyball, what they did to get on TV, I might not be 100% correct, was they have rally scoring, and then when it gets to be match point, then it becomes side out scoring.
Which I think is what the MLP maybe did for their singles
Yes,
showdown.
exactly. That is what happened with MLP. So they were the first ones, I guess, in pickleball to really try it. Um, I know that was it the Jan Poppy, whatever tournament that he used to hold down there. They did rally scoring once in a timed
Hmm.
event, but I don't know. I didn't really like the time because then you could start like milking the clock, right? There were some
Yeah.
issues with like Eden and Riley. I remember that like a couple years ago. You know, Eden already takes his sweet time, right? Because he's a big boy. He's got to rest between points, and then now he is like really stretching it. And I think Riley was getting pretty pissed, which is understandable, right? Because it was a close game. And you run out of time, and that's it. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see the tournament still kind of play with some ideas, maybe in like the what I guess they call them like tier threes or whatever the smaller prize tournaments to test some of those scoring options.
Come for sure.
Yep.
So, John, we've been talking about broadcasts all episode. Do you want to explain why we're so focused on broadcasts this up?
Honestly, you know what? You draw up the list and I just show up. So I don't know, you tell me.
Well, there is a method to my madness here, and that's because you, John, will be hitting the APP broadcast booth this weekend.
I know. It's pretty exciting. It's something I've wanted to do for a while and I've done in wow, a little amateur scale in racing. Uh, but I do like being in the booth. I do like just sitting back and talking about pickleball like I do at home every single weekend. So I am fortunate enough that Ken Herman's giving me a chance to get in the broadcast booth with Dom and Lauren and see where that goes.
Now you're going to do a great job. Are you going to take any advice, or what's your advice for yourself going into the weekend?
Well, in terms of advice, I'm going to be definitely leaning on, just the APP staff itself, already the team that's there, Lauren, Dom, Ken, Terry, all those people. Um, and whoever else, Kyle Salenko, whoever. Um, and just really learning, right? I'm they're there to learn for sure, but also try to bring value. So I'm looking forward to it. Advice for myself is to just be loose, you know, prepared. I am getting very prepared for it because I don't, this might come as a shock to you because when it comes to a podcast, I'm usually never prepared, but, I usually just wing it. So I'm definitely more prepared for this than I would normally be.
What do you do to get prepared?
Well, so a couple years ago, I wanted to be in a broadcast booth, and COVID hit, and there weren't really any tournaments, and so it kind of just put on the back burner. But I had already had a database on pretty much every player, full of player information. Uh, I Facebook stalked people, find out where they're from. I watch a bunch of videos uh, of them playing, etc. And I just have a lot of notes on a lot of players. And I unfortunately lost that database um, on my
Is that
old computer.
is that why it didn't help us at the US Open this past year?
Exactly. Well, I think I wasn't training enough either, which didn't really help me. It's kind of hard to execute a plan when you can't execute your own shots. So I think, yeah, I just didn't play well that weekend. So that
Well,
was
me neither.
unfortunate. So yeah, I'm very, very prepared. But so I've rebuilt the database. I've spent several hours rebuilding it and compiling all my notes. So I'm ready to go. Almost, almost ready to go.
Should we do a practice to get you ready? Want to give us a recap of the last Mesa Open?
You want me to practice now?
Yeah,
Um,
give us a little insight what we should expect.
expect from the APP in general.
Yeah, like what would be your recap or takeaway from the Mesa Open?
Well, takeaway from the the Mesa Open would be you got to see new talent emerge at the top, right? So John Sincola was finally able to take down his training partner, Zane Navratil, in a competition match, which before that match, he even said, we go 50-50 all the time in practice. Haven't beat him in a tournament yet. And then it came down to gold medal match, and John Sincola, played just as about as good as he can play, and took down his brother there. So he definitely shined through, and I think we're going to see a lot more from Johnson Cola going into Boca Raton in a very large singles bracket. And you're also going to see Zane try to get that redemption. And in terms of doubles, Irina Teroshenko um, and Vivian David put on a show. I don't know how much they've partnered up together, but it hasn't been a lot, and they performed well. And also, you got to see Austin Gridley finally get a gold medal with JW Johnson, who was very excited. Let's just say that, uh, in the very least, in the Mesa gold medal match. And then, of course, JW is just there. But, I think we're going to see a lot of good matches and some new matchups, which are very exciting for pickleball.
See, I think you're ready. You're ready to go.
I didn't prepare any of that, so winged it.
There you
So
go.
maybe that's what I should do. I don't know.
I think you're gonna kill it. I'm super excited for you. I think have fun, be yourself, and you know your stuff. So I'm really excited to watch you on the mic at the Boca APP Masters.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Trial period, see how it goes, and if it goes well, maybe I'll be on more tournaments. So looking forward to it.
On the payroll,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, that's nice. It, it'll be nice actually, making money at a tournament instead of spending money and
Yeah,
going 2-2.
yeah. So is there anything else that we should talk about on the APP Mesa Open? Anything that you didn't capture in your great recap there?
um, I did like to see Hayden Patriquin. I will have to make sure I pronounce his name correctly. Uh, he's a young kid. Um, and he actually almost took a game off Zane Navratil in singles. And I think you're starting to see Aiden, Whitestone, uh, some of the other young guns really start to make a name for themselves. So I think you're going to see more of that. I think you're going to see more of these teenagers, Dylan Frazier, Wyatt, Aiden, and others really start to challenge some of the veterans because you can already see the raw talent and the athleticism is there, especially with
Hmm.
these kids starting at such a young age, right? They're just sponges. So
And don't forget Georgia Johnson on the women's side, who took home the silver medal in women's singles.
that is true. So, I mean, you're just going to keep seeing it happen. You see it
Hmm.
pretty much every 5-0 bracket has a teenager on the top of the podium, so you're just going to start seeing that age of pros start to get, younger and younger as the sport evolves because these kids are starting when they're 10 and compared to former college athletes that are starting playing pickleball when they're 23, 24, 25.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's cool to see, right? Pickleball is getting more youthful.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think the other thing, and you kind of hit on it in your recap, is the new partnerships. So I think Irina and Vivian were first time partnership. I think Jesse and Andrea Coop, Jesse Irvin and Andrea Coop, who were their opponents in the final, were also a first time partnership. I believe JW and Austin Gridley were first time partnership. So that's all very interesting because these first time partnerships feel like it's really good or really bad. And people can maybe expose weaknesses because you don't know each other on the court.
Mhm.
And I think we will see some new partnerships, especially early on in the year, right? Because we have certain PPA contracted players. We already have some new partnerships in like the Riley Newman, Matt Wrights, Tyson McGuffin, Jay DeVilliers. So there's already some new ones to start off, and I think there'll be some shakeup. But as the year goes on, I'm sure we'll see a lot of the uh, some solidified partnerships, a lot of the same matchups as people kind of find their footing. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful segue into all the new partnerships that are happening. I love it because I think a lot of people will agree that as much as, we like Simone and Lucy, uh, Ben, uh, Matt, or sorry, Tyson and Riley, all those names, your Pat and your Jay, you almost get tired of seeing the same matchups over and over and over and over again, right? Um, so it's nice to get like a clean slate of just new matchups. It's fresh, you know, you're gonna get to see the players develop chemistry throughout the year, right? Maybe one of those really good pairings is not going to do so well in the beginning, but over the course of the whole year, I think the podiums are going to possibly look a little bit different because of these new pairings,
Hmm.
which is great because I like variety. So it'll be nice to see.
Yeah, I think it will be interesting, especially at the beginning. I hope everybody continues to mix it up though as the year goes on, because with so many tournaments, we're probably going to see a lot of the same matchups on
Mhm.
repeat. But it's definitely going to be exciting. Different personalities being on the court together. There's some people that are playing together that are known maybe not to get along off the court. So see how if that actually is a good strategy. If they're on court, can overcome any off court differences.
Mhm.
Uh, but it's gonna be an exciting year watching the pros.
Yeah, it will. I mean, just looking at some of these partnerships, I think a really interesting one is Riley Newman and Matt Wright. Um, there's a lot of personality there. I don't know Matt that well. Know Riley, on an okay basis. Uh, but two alphas on the same team, right? So it'll be interesting to see because I mean they have the talent to win gold, that's for sure, right? They have the talent to take on Ben and Colin, but we'll see how the personalities go.
Well, it
Uh,
might actually work because Riley uncharacteristically, I think, likes to play the even or right side of the court, while
mhm,
Matt is known or likes to play the opposite. So they get to play maybe their favored side. Uh, so maybe that will help with it'll just be how they handle the middle.
yeah, um, it'll be interesting. I think, yeah, Riley does like to play on the right, but when Matt was playing with Ben, Matt was on the right the whole time as well.
True.
So I think that they can play both sides equally well, and they're talented enough and smart enough to, if they need to, either switch the stack or just play straight up. Whatever's going to work for them, they're going to do. Because at the end of the day, they're gonna want to win, right? So um, it'll be interesting. Um, and my favorite new matchup is Jay DeVilliers and Tyson McGuffin. That one, I think, that combo, I think, is going to surprise quite a few people, in my opinion. I think with how just consistent and disciplined Tyson is and how much pressure Jay can put with his size. And they're both good teammates, right? You can tell that. Um, I think they're really going to impress the pickleball world. That's my team to watch this year. My favorite team.
I agree for all the reasons you stated, but I think most importantly, the after point or after rally celebrations are going to be amazing. Like Tyson and Jay screaming, "Come on!" Oh, that's going to be my favorite thing to watch. I think.
I actually loved when Pat Smith and Jay would play together because Pat would be like, then Jay's like, "Come on," and it's like this such a softer tone of a celebration, and then Pat just is like sound like a lion. And then now you have Tyson just gonna be barking at Jay the whole time. And then Jay will still have the same "come on." Um, it'll be fun to see. But
I agree.
Thomas Wilson and Pat Smith too. Not a lot of people know about Thomas Wilson, I don't think. And he's just coming onto the scene. He's going to. I've watched a lot of his play as well, and he's going to be at the top very soon. So that's another good team. Um, what about you, Stace? Any new favorite matchups?
Excited to see some of the new women's teams. So women's I really like because it's a little more fast paced in my opinion. But
Hmm.
I will be watching the Waters, Team Waters, of course, Lee and Anna Lee. But curious how some of their new opponents, maybe like a Lucy Kovalova and Callie Smith, will do together. I think that's a powerful team right there.
Yes.
And then to see hopefully how the women's draws really shake out over the year. I'm hoping more people really get involved and start signing up for these tournaments and fill out those women's draws. I think you're already starting to see more new people, at least for me, when I go just play recreational at my local
Mhm.
courts. There's more talented women on the courts. So it'll be interesting to see if there's some new faces that shake things up this year.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely getting more women into the pro draws, which is nice. Um, but I mean, you have Megan Sheehan is on and Alice Jones. They've really, shook that women's draw up towards the end of the year.
Hmm.
Uh, and Yana Grishkina is now in the mix. I do like your Callie and Lucy team. That is just a very strong team.
Hmm.
Um, it'll be curious to see who Simone plays with when in the tournaments that she does play, since I know she is recovering from injuries. Um, it'll be interesting to see how she does, right? She's playing with Andrea Coop and Boca. I think that is like an outstanding team. Um, yeah, you're just seeing more and more women start to trickle in. So hopefully that continues because I think everybody would like to see the doubles and the singles draws get a lot bigger for women.
Yeah, so hopefully, I guess to answer your question, what I'm looking forward to is maybe some unknown stories at the moment. See some new faces and more
Mhm.
interest come into the sport.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, I mean, it's definitely what pro pickleball needs is more women. That's for sure. I think in the amateur side, your 3-5 ladies bracket is probably the biggest bracket in the whole tournament. But at the pro level, it's just got to keep coming up. But it's starting to. You've seen Megan Fudge, um, some other names that I've never heard of, Laura Bryan, um, Allie Phillips. You're starting to see these names that we've never seen before. So hopefully they can start to make a name for themselves and help recruit more women.
I agree. So looking towards this weekend, not only are you on the mic, but also the APPs has some new announcement. You have any idea what it could be?
I don't know. I am
I,
out of the loop at the moment.
I'm curious to see. I I imagine it's something in response to the PPA or something to elevate their tour. But I'm excited to listen in on that. And then the PPA has an announcement of their own on February 1st. So about 10 days later. So curious to see what that is in response.
I kind of feel like they don't even really have an announcement. They're just going to react. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just making fun of it. But I have no idea what it's going to be. I'm sure both tours are going to try to do what's best for the sport and the players. And at the end of the day, that's all I care about. So, I mean, it's exciting times. Exciting times.
I know more to come. Any
What
any
else?
final takeaways or things we should be thinking about going into the weekend, John?
Well, um, I mean, I hope it doesn't rain in Boca. when we're there because I think there might be a storm brewing. So hopefully we have good weather down there. It's usually beautiful down there this time. You could correct me. I'm up here in Jacksonville, so it's like Georgia weather. So we don't even get that South Florida weather.
No, you're
Um,
right. There is some rain in the forecast on Friday and Saturday, which are going to be two of the busiest days. But hopefully it is pushes off or they have a plan B to get all the games in.
mhm. um, I think it'll be a fun weekend for pickleball because there are just many different matchups, and teams that have formed, and I think it's really going to shake up the dynamics of the tournament and the top steps, right? So, you have Simone playing with Wes Gabrielson. I think that's interesting. They're going to do well. Um, who else? Let's see. Uh, One team I think is going to take some names out as a bold hot take is Jim Dobrin and Shannon Moore. I've played them several times, and that's a very solid team. So if you are a more statured pickleball team, do not take them lightly because they play very good pickleball. Um, Deckel and Vivian is obviously a very good team, and we just saw that at Mesa. Um, Kyle Yates and Austin Gridley. That will be a very interesting matchup. I know Kyle is planning to play a lot of APPs this year, so I think we're going to see Kyle start to make that comeback back up to the gold medal matches, on a regular basis, which would be good to see because I'm a Kyle fan. Um, I don't know what else to predict really, Stacie. I'm just excited for this year and see where it goes.
Well, I'm most excited to see you in the broadcast booth. I expect amazing commentary and some nice one-liner jokes along the way. And I hope everybody tuning in also tunes into this weekend to support John and his broadcast debut with the APP. And until then, I think remember to subscribe to Pickler's free pickleball newsletter over at www.thepickler.com, where you can learn to play better pickleball for free. And again, don't forget to tune in, support John. We'll be watching and cheering you on from home, John.
Thank you. And yes, definitely anybody listening, make sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Um, we got to get to 1,000 so we can start making that money, honey. So we're getting closer.
That's right.
So
Hit subscribe.
hit subscribe. It helps us out a lot. Smash that like button. It really helps us out. So that's it for me, Stace. Unless you got something else.
No, I think you take us out.
All right. Ready? Pickler out.